Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast. Shortly, we'll be joined by Kid Bookie, but before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And again, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, whatever you're watching or listening. Excited to welcome today Kid Bookie to the Full Pelt Music Podcast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I am smoked a massive spliff, so I'm chilling. Had a good dinner. Got my dog chilling. I'm gonna have to give her a bath soon. That's my next task. She's got some fleas.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Is that time of year again, actually, isn't it? For
Yeah, man.
fleas?
It happens like every summer. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just one of those things when you've got pets you have to deal with, isn't it? But
Either that, I'm gonna kill her. So it's either that or give it. It's gone.
Yeah, there is that, but it might be quite an extreme route to go down. I'm sure there'll be some over-the-counter stuff that will sort it. But obviously, as I said before we hit record, really excited to get this opportunity to talk with you because it's an exciting time for yourself. Songs for the Living, Songs for the Dead.
Mhm.
Your new album is out as we talk in about 4 days. So I've had an opportunity to listen to the album. I'm currently writing the review that we're going to publish, and it's going to be a great review because it is just such a phenomenal statement of an album. So
You genuinely like it?
genuinely just have fallen in love with it over the last few
Fuck
days
yeah,
of listening to
thank
it.
you
It's
so
such
much.
a stunning album. So I have a principle, and it's a bit of a weird one, but we rate our albums out of 5, and I have never given a 5. And I'm debating it with this. My rule is I don't give a 5 because to say something's a 5 out of 5,
Yeah,
that
of
means
course.
it is perfect.
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing wrong with it. So I've always been dead against it, but I've been questioning myself slightly in the last few weeks of it's a bit harsh stance, really, never to give out a 5. So I think there's one coming, and it may well be this album.
But you might have to look at it. 5 sometimes isn't perfection. Sometimes 5 is just like your criteria of what 5 is.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to readjust and we will find out, but I'm pretty sure this may well be that first 5. So,
I've got my fingers in the air to God.
well, the question for you at this point, because I know how good it is, you know how good it is, but obviously we're 4 days away from the world finding that out. What feelings, what's going through your mind at the moment, this close to release date? What are your expectations of it, really?
First and foremost, no expectation because I don't want to. I have hopes. I think hopes are easier to live with than expectation. But if I was to hope, I would hope that it just does well enough that it allows me to go into a next project cycle with the same support I've had for this one. I think I've fallen in love with it again. I've fallen out of love with it, and I've fallen in love with it. Oh, just because of the course of time, how some songs have made me feel, the detachment to some, the attachment to others, and I like it. It's a really good statement for. It's weird. Like I don't talk about myself as like that kind of shit, but I do think maybe it could potentially be a good statement for just what rock music can be today, and not just rock, but like the hybrid of fusions of sound that go beyond just okay, this has got rapping in, so it's rap rock, but but then completely ignoring the fact that there's an absolute stonker of a hook on it. So I feel good. I have no expectation. I just hope that it aids the trajectory well.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's definitely going to. From my love with it, it's just such a fantastic record, and I want to dive a little bit further into it because I've been reading with Cheaper Than Therapy, your last album. You've kind of alluded to that album being the time that you musically at least found yourself as you obviously evolved Kid Bookie into where it is now. This album to me really feels like you've taken that and you've just dove even deeper into what it is to be yourself, really, which is quite deep. But is that a fair assumption on my part?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like each project cycle is a nice imprint on your identity, what you've learned, who you are, and I guess glimpse of what you can become. And I think each project is probably given a small glimpse of what I like, and I guess each project probably gets a little bit braver in the approach just to be more free. And I think it's important. I think music has to have a lot of freedom in it, or you start finding weird restraints that end up curating the song in a way that it's not supposed to, and then it ends up not being about feeling anymore, but just like this package.
Yeah, I get that, especially in 2024. There's a lot of pressures on what a song should be. And I love when an artist I'm talking to on this podcast talks around being able to enjoy a bit of freedom to say make the music they want to make as opposed to the music they're told that they need to make. Uh,
100%.
yeah, and this album again represents that so well. And I love that you talked about obviously the process of recording it, because that's where I want to go next as well. Because just looking at the list of people you've worked with on this album, I mean, doing this podcast, I talk to a lot of artists around album release time, and I'll always see certain names come up as the producer role or someone they've collaborated with, and so many of them names appear on this album of people that I recognize through repetition of being, wow, this person's really really good at what they do. They've got a real talent and niche for some great music that's coming through.
Yeah.
Um, for you working with the people that you've worked with on this and such a range of them, what have you learned from that process of working with obviously talented individuals such as these people?
Um, I guess in a weird way, can be really controlling over my own music. And I work, I kind of use the same people I work with often. Obviously, Billy from Good Charlotte, I work with him a lot. I've worked with him for like 5 years. But in a weird way, even though I've worked with so many musicians, it's quite featureless than my other projects. And, we all know I like to put about 18 people on a project, but this one's really featureless, but more people are involved in the music side of it, where before it would be me really involved in the music side of it, but getting a load of people on it. And I think it was just more to allow me to make a statement on my own rather than lean on a lot of my contemporaries that could potentially put my projects in places that I can't. And so I guess working with the musicians that are on here, especially Billy, Good Charlotte are a massive staple in my musical, lineage. Mikey from Skindred, we also have like a really nice trajectory. We were both nominated for Mobos last year for my second one. I think it was their first one. And they won that one, to be real. Fuck you guys. And I'm joking. All right, man. And yeah, and then Tom Mitchener as well. Like, he's such a fucking genius. It's insane. He's really good at making music. And it was really nice to just we went into the studio and we made Love Drunk, which is like probably the most left-leaning song I've ever made in a way, but it's also probably weirdly one of my favorites, even though I get scared of it sometimes because it's so, like, it's not far away from what I do, because I do like making I just like making anything really. But sometimes you are an amalgamation of everything you love. So you bring in people that can bring that out, but you'll make a song that's in you, but not in, sometimes it's not even recognizable because it's like, fucking no, I can make that,
Yeah, and I love that about this record. It's one of the things that stands out to me is it's not, 11 tracks that all sound relatively the same. It is, I was just thinking in my head, it's a bit like back in the day, you used to obviously get a lot of compilation CDs, the top of the pop sort of, and now music, and obviously, with this, there's so many different genres that you've touched on, obviously influences that have been brought into it. And in particular, just the sort of the run of the first sort of 3 or 4 tracks, it jumps between musical styling so much that it's actually just strikingly kind of just a brave track list that's been put there, because it doesn't think, well, this is what an album should flow like. This is what it should sound like going from track to track. It's like, nah, this is how it's going to sound. And obviously, yeah, just absolutely love that. And yeah,
Thank you.
um, with obviously all of the compliments I give you, and obviously
No,
you
I
get to,
don't take them. None of them are just like passing through. They're actually like, oh wow. Like you have to understand every new person that says something about my music that I've never spoken to before. And I ask you, do you mean that? And you say, yes. I slowly believe that, you know. So I'm like, thank you. Like, wow, like, oh my God, like, okay, that shit I made is actually it's good. So fucking hell yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's damn good. It really, really is. And that's the point I kind of want to make now, really, is with obviously yourself. You've gone on a bit of a musical journey, obviously, when you first sort of entered the music industry, more along the sort of grime rap kind of scene. Obviously, always wanted to make the type of music you're making now, and obviously had to fight against some societal sort of expectations to be able to get to where you are now to put this out. Obviously, the likes of myself praising you and getting to work with the people you've got to work with that I'm sure would have been, singing your praises throughout that process. And, positive album reviews are going to be coming out. You've obviously had Mobo nominations, Heavy Music nominations. Do all this recognition, these accolades, give you some kind of vindication for obviously pushing ahead with your vision of what you wanted to become and not just sticking with what maybe would have been easier?
Um, yeah, man. Like weirdly, like if you would have asked me this 10 days ago, I would have said, I don't deserve them. But 10 days later, I think I'm slowly coming around to the fact that, I'm like, cool. Well, I don't know. I've got this weird question, like, why ain't Lenny Kravitz been nominated for the 2 times I've been nominated? But he's like done 50, 60 million albums more than me. So I sometimes compare that, but then I shouldn't, because the reality is I've got that. It doesn't matter fucking about anybody. Like I did it, and I'm trying to adopt that approach. Like it doesn't matter. Like you did that, and no matter what was aided towards doing it, you did it. So yeah, they all mean, I've done many things, and I think many things were not apparent to my true nature. But when you do take that leap of it's not even just faith, but you take that leap of knowing and believing in that your true authentic self is just enough to get by, and everything is easy. Not easy per se, but you don't have to remember what lie you said because you faked being this, or what acts you put on in this room to get in there. Now you have to remember this. You just be yourself, and ultimately, I don't give a fuck if you like me or not, because I don't even know if I like you, because I don't even know what you are yet. So, I don't know. I'm abrasive, but I'm kind. Well, I'm not, yeah, I'm kind. I'm not the nicest, because nice has got a different kind of face. Anyone can be nice, but being kind comes with a set of rules and sentiments and mantras and like structure. So, I'm just here to shake shit up in a unearthly way, but whilst keeping it, not just real, because everyone's interpretation of what real is can be stretched far and wide, but just, enough to make sure that this playground that we all live in before we die is there to be abused to its highest accord, because it's, just everything is there for the taking. And a lot of us believe that it's just there for a certain amount of people. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I love um with the lyrics on this album as well, just how genuine they feel, how honest they are. And obviously you said, if I'd have asked that question 10 days ago, you would have given a different answer. And I pick up a lot of kind of discovery within these songs as well, of
yeah,
self-discovery and realizing, as you said earlier, I think you touched on, actually I'm realizing now that these songs actually are really good. I may have thought it, but now more people are telling me it's like, yeah, no, they are. And I think all of us in life have always, it's so easy to beat yourself up, and think, why me? I'm not good enough. That shouldn't be me in that position. But
yeah,
I think it's uplifting in this album to kind of take away from that. That actually, why not me? why not? Why can't I do this? Just because people are telling me no, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And yeah, say that does shine through. So yeah, absolutely love that about the record as well. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of love, I've used that word a few times. Regular listeners or viewers to the podcast know my love for music videos. I bang on about them every single episode if I can. And the reason I say if I can is because they're a bit of a dying art these days. Obviously, I grew up with music TV, Kerrang and Scars and watching all these great videos that gave me more of a connection to a band than just listening to them on Spotify.
Yeah.
The 3 videos you've put out so far for obviously Songs for the Living, Songs for the Dead, again, are just fantastic, I have to say. I'm going to touch on in particular AI Save Yourself because I love a bit of a cinematic video, especially if you can work in some kind of live sort of shots into it as well. A mixture of the two average, it's either cinematic or live, but when you can blend the two, I think it works really, really well, as obviously that track does. So with that video in particular, how did you go about putting that concept into practice?
It's weird because I don't really like my songs are more personal related to like just like, I don't know, the general human condition, feelings and blah blah blah. I'm not really like, oh, let me talk about AI. You know what I mean? I don't really do that. But I guess where it is a thing that I am quite new. I think the whole world is new to, and can be exciting to everybody, or it can be scary to others. And can it program a computer to crush 8,000 baby skulls? You know what I mean? Like, fuck knows. Who knows what the fuck going on with that shit? But I guess it was more just intriguing to be like, all right, let me touch on something that I don't normally touch in. Because it made, and I started making a song and it felt very villainous. And I guess for me, AI does have a darker touch to it than just, like Microsoft Word or some shit. It's like, it is a very, it's like an organism that's just kind of beginning to not seek consciousness, but like, I don't know, it's ever growing. So I guess it's like, yeah, let me kind of lean into that and just kind of make a video that resembles me trying to find the hive mind of KO, or the subjects that are around, or this dystopian place that's been overruled now by like these AI bots,
Yeah, absolutely works so well. And listeners, there'll be a link in the bio of this episode. Obviously, do click through it and watch it if you haven't seen it. I'd say love music videos, and it's well worth checking out, as are the other tracks from this album as well. So, yeah, we've already touched on across a few of these questions that you like to do things your own way. You don't necessarily feel you have to stick to what people tell you need to do. And one thing that I noticed, I saw when you first talked about it a month or two back, and I've just reminded myself of it and thought, oh yeah, I forgot that Kid Bookie was doing that. Obviously, around the release of this album, you're gonna go and play some acoustic shows in people that pre-ordered the album's houses,
Yeah.
which is not something that's really been done very much, certainly to my knowledge. So I mean, how did that come into your head, and are you looking forward to getting out and meeting obviously the people that have bought into your music?
Yeah, because I guess, I'm not going to get mobbed by millions of people at the door. You know what I mean? I've got some diehards for sure, but I'm also a man of the people and a people's person. And I think it's like, what more do I have if I have just like some sort of connection to, and I don't like using the word strangers. I think that's a very scary word that makes people think about someone in front of them in a negative way. So, and I think words have a big impact on the way people think. So I'm like, let me meet people. Let me share their nuances. Let me share their, their uniqueness, their isms and schisms, and talk and just play some music that they've bought out of their money, So I wish I kind of had some artists that did that to me. So I guess if I have an opportunity to be able to do that, then I'm going to do it. I was going to do it between the first week of September, but I just couldn't. So I'm going to tie it in with this whole month. Plus, I've got the time to do it. I know people are waiting for me to be there, and I know I don't want to let anyone down. So I'm going to try and do as many as I can. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be such a unique experience for those people lucky enough to have you knock on their door. So yeah, I really hope it all goes well. As I do with obviously the in-store shows that you've got coming up as we talk. You've got about six lined up, and I love in-store shows because they offer something a little bit different to just a normal show when you go to obviously a venue and obviously get the full kind of band experience.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to that unique vibe that you get from those shows as well?
Yeah, man. It's I like you know, I'm a person that's played arenas from Wembley Arena to fucking the Green Door store in fucking Brighton, you know what I mean? And they all have their place for how you are trying to get yourself across. So whoever's turning up to these shows, and the weirdest thing is, it's like it's weird. I don't I didn't like I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like such a notorious non-headliner. Like I don't tour a lot, not by choice. I just don't get to sometimes do a lot of shit. And so it's kind of the first time people are coming out to just see me without anyone else, which is like, so you're kind of in the same time, you know, you're vulnerably inhuman. Like, is anyone even going to give a fuck? So, but I've seen, you know, I'm getting messages every day like, oh, I'm coming to this one, I'm coming to that one. I'm like, okay, that's dope, you know, and what a dream it would be for this album to fucking chart or something, you know. So, yeah, man, I've got hopes. Like I said, I don't expect anything, but I have small hopes.
Yeah, absolutely. You should do. And yeah, it's interesting you touch on it because I agree that yeah, there's probably not been as much opportunity for fans to catch you at a full sort of headline show as you know I would like there to be because I'd certainly be popping along to one of the shows. I caught you supporting Bob Villan. I want to say earlier this year, but it was probably like
I
a year or
had
two
that
ago at this
last
point.
year. I had
That-
COVID for that whole tour.
oh
I
no.
was so ill. Every night it was like I'd wake up like 10 minutes before the show, get ready, and suck it in and just go out. It was so hard.
Well, I didn't notice. So if that's you ill, then I can't wait to see what you're like when you're fighting fit. And to that point, you know, the question that a lot of fans maybe will have with a new album coming out is, yeah, and no doubt with the way the music industry works, even if there is stuff already booked, you probably can't tell me exactly what it is. But just a hint, is there obviously plans for Kid Bookie to get out and play quite a lot of shows, hopefully, to support the album?
Yes and no, because nothing's been set in stone, but there is rumblings and conversations of things I need to be doing. So I will be hopefully updating on that as soon as I get a chance to.
And that's a nice segue because I always like to give out the social handles for the listeners. There'll be a link in the bio. With yours, I'm sure they would find you without my help because it is literally Kid Bookie across all of the social platforms, wherever people go to do their social mediaing. It is just at Kid Bookie, which is nice because sometimes I have to read out four different ones with underscores and all kinds of rubbish in there.
No, I
But
was lucky to just have it. Like, it's just like it got claimed. I was like, right, there's no one's claiming it. Fuck it.
yeah, well, I appreciate it because it's definitely made my life easier. So listeners, definitely, obviously, go follow Kid Bookie on social media to stay up to date. You know, when them shows get announced, that's where you're going to find out. And I would point them in the direction of you on Twitter in particular. I keep calling it Twitter. I should call it X, but I don't think I'm ever going to. But for me, you've become something of a modern Twitter philosopher. It's quite entertaining following you on there.
I
So.
know there's a ramble, man. I used to be a lot worse than Twitter. I used to do, but now I'm pretty calm. I feel like I'm quite a non-rogue version of what I once was. But you'll get the odd shit tweet, you know, of me just talking about splattering diarrhea across some room or something.
The one that stuck out to me recently was when you were talking about, isn't it crazy how, you know, a surgeon, when they open you up, they could just, you know, fart inside of you or
Yeah, legit.
put
Close
some
up.
gravel inside you and you wouldn't know about it. It's like,
Yeah, stick
yeah,
gravel.
yeah, that is crazy
Gravel.
power to wield, isn't it, as a
Yeah.
surgeon, the fact that you could just do that. Yeah.
Honestly, just stick a bit of bogey in you, close that shit up. It was disgusting.
Yeah, it's not even worth thinking about that, is it? Absolutely not. But obviously, so much going on in the world of Kid Bookie, and listeners, as I've said, go through, follow on social media, check out the album as it comes out, check out the videos. The last segment that we always have is something that I brought in probably only a couple of episodes into the podcast, to be honest, because I realised probably through my sort of questions that I was talking to a lot of guests about issues within the music industry, and I didn't want it to take over the whole podcast. So I thought, you know what, I'll just put it all at the end. So I came up with this ingenious concept called the magic wand. So I always give my guests an imaginary, sadly, magic wand. And I just say, with that magic wand, you can change one thing about the music industry, but obviously one thing only. And this where it gets tough because there's a lot that needs to change. But today with yours, what would Kid Bookie change?
What would I change about the whole music industry?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Um, I would change the way perception is tailored to, I don't know, novelty, and make sure that everyone has, there's not just everyone has a voice, but there's an equal opportunity that it's not just one person per week or per month that gets to shine. I don't know. I know it's so cliche, but if anything, I'll just turn it on its head and burn it to the ground and say, fuck you all, you pieces of shit. I'm running this shit, and piss on anyone who tries to get back up. So they slip as they're climbing and their hands all greasy because they're urinating on them.
That's quite the vision. That is quite the vision, and probably the most unique answer I've had to that question. But I mean, I couldn't agree more with the equal opportunities. Absolutely, is one of the key issues that constantly comes up. Is again, just expectations around who can be successful and
Yeah,
what
man.
people are allowed to do. And
I'm literally about to. I'm out here trying to fucking shift this shit, man. Give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I really hope that Songs for the Living, Songs for the Dead is a big breakthrough for yourself. I mean,
Thank you very much.
it deserves recognition. It really, really does. Like I say, to drill it home to the listeners, you really do need to check it out. I mean, I imagine if you're listening to this niche podcast episode with Kid Bookie, you're probably a fan of Kid already, and you probably are going to listen to it already. But just for the sake of it, I really always give that push as the last message.
Mm.
But I love to give the last message over to my guests. So what would be your last message for the listeners today?
Fuck shit up and don't let shit fuck you up.
Great final message. Absolutely great final message. And once again, thank you so much for giving up your time and coming on the podcast.
I thank you for saying a lot of nice sentiments that have inspired me today to go write some extremely cocky tweets.
Perfect. And I look forward to reading them. I really, really do. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Kid Bookie. Make sure you follow him across social media to stay up to date with everything coming from him. And of course, follow Full Pelt as well. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. Finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, whatever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Full Pelt Music Podcast.